Hello everybody out there, this is Julian Seyfried, ready to give you a review on Crimson Peak, a new film directed and written by Guillermo Del Toro. Let's go ahead and get started. Diving into what is quite literally Guillermo Del Toro's love letter to classic horror signed with a quill pen is Crimson Peak. A beautifully shot and well-edited ghost suspense story starring Mia Wasikowska, Tom Hiddleston, Jessica Chastain, and Charlie Hunnam. As I said before, it is obvious throughout the trailers and TV spots that this film was intended in the way of taking on classic horror cinema, present here by the ways of the Gothic architecture, mixed on a level with a hellacious atmosphere when things are at their most silent and colorfully dark in nature. This works beautifully with Del Toro's sense of imagination. The film begins in New York City. A young childlike Edith Cushing, played by Sophia Wells at the time, has been able to see and hear ghosts all her life. Losing her mother unknowingly on why to the audience, has a terrifying encounter with her mother's ghost that night after the funeral to warn young Edith by saying, "Beware of Crimson Peak." Somewhat decent CGI is presented here, and thankfully Del Toro's direction and vision make sure that any of the supernatural element in the film is kept to the shadows to help build unsettling tension, because as soon as they are visible, most desensitized horror fans will not be scared by them at all, and most will find the designs a little on the goofy or basic side. Grown up now, Edith, played at this point for the rest of the film by Mia Wasikowska, is an author writing ghost tales trying to become published despite difficulties as a woman. There's a lot of references here at the time of Mary Shelley, the author that actually wrote Frankenstein. She even mentions her in a scene in the film at this point. Edith's father, Carter Cushing, played by Jim Beaver, is a self-made industrialist, wealthy but a firm believer in hard work. The colors presented at her father's office building, as well as the Cushing home during the day, are warm and bright, using gold rays of sunshine to fill the rooms and nice high society-like settings. It has a sense of warmth that also feels very secure, which to me adds into the way the locations have a life of their own. And you will actually hear what I mean when we actually get to the giant mansion that is seen in the trailers. Edith herself has gold-like blonde hair that makes her look pure among everyone around her, and I believe it was highly intentional, as you know she's the main focus, to be pure of heart. This is where Sir Thomas Sharpe, played by the charming Tom Hiddleston, comes in. Looking to have a meeting with her father to fund an industrial machine designed by Sharpe, Sir Thomas is introduced to Edith, who works for her father. Having an interesting interaction by reading some of her manuscript for her novel and enjoying what he reads, it's easy to see that Edith already takes a liking to Sir Thomas, even though an optometrist, Dr. Alan McMichael, played by Charlie Hunnam, also likes Edith but to no avail. Edith is drawn to Thomas. During the meeting, it's obvious that Carter does not feel the same as Edith, notices his failed attempts with other locations, and turns him down for his project. Sir Thomas continues to make himself more charming to Edith, introducing her to his sister, Lucille Sharpe, played by Jessica Chastain. Marrying Thomas, much to the dismay of Alan, she agrees to return with him and his sister to Allerdale Hall, a huge manor located in the English hills. The location shown throughout which is, like I said, shown throughout the trailers. Allerdale Hall easily steals the show, with its absolutely beautiful set design that would be hard for me to explain even in this review, but I'm going to try. Victorian-like architecture, mixed with technical lighting, cinematography, and editing, makes the manor come alive more so than any Gothic set in past horror films. And I actually mean that. If any character that deserves any award, it would be Allerdale Hall itself. I spent a lot of time in the theater looking all around at the production designers' work, as far as Thomas E. Sanders, and set decorators Jeffrey A. Melvin and Shane Vo's handiwork with much delight. The walls in certain areas look like they're bleeding constantly due to the red clay that sits underneath the house. The roof in the main hall at the front is broken, which allows leaves and snow to trickle down to the floor. It's truly no short of a genius design. Anyone with common sense, along with an appreciation for art, will be stunned by this place. From here on out, both Sir Thomas and Lucille Sharp begin to act strange, telling Edith to be careful when exploring the house, not to trek into certain areas. The chemistry between Wachkowska and Hiddleston is not quite there at the beginning, but as it continues, they become more charming together in their acting. You get a real connection that's hard to ignore. Edith is, however, still lost in nothing but secrets, visions of ghosts appearing in the hallways that seem to be drawn to her. The final act is a little intense as everyone and everything begins to pour out to the forefront, but overall, a satisfying film in Del Toro's repertoire. I do recommend seeing this film, but it's a matter of your level of commitment to the genre, if that means going to a theater, or just waiting for the home release, or making its way to streaming options. Crimson Peak is not your typical modern-day horror where any action is filmed at a quicker pace. It's like I said, Del Toro wanted to tell a classic horror, gothic story, which requires a film that breathes as well as oozes lots of atmosphere. Del Toro has accomplished this with his locations design, its actors and actresses' costumes, and attention to detail to everything. The acting of Wachkowska can be a little contrived at times, but overall she manages to do a great job. The true talented thespians here are easily Hiddleston and Chastain. Hiddleston is charming all the way through, a lost soul himself in the way he carries the character. I know a lot of girls who are going to just absolutely just fall in love with him as much as they did when he was Loki in the Marvel's Avengers, or anything in this Marvel Cinematic Universe. Chastain is stern, mysterious, depressing, and eye-piercing Wachowska's Edith at every turn. Charlie Hunnam, on the other hand, I can't say too much without making the Sons of Anarchy and Pacific Rim crowd upset at me. Never once did I feel that he gave 110% into his role, still sporting the Jax Teller from SOA demeanor by the way of his delivery. Thankfully, he did not bring his gangster-like walk that was quote-unquote okay for Pacific Rim. Guillermo Del Toro's Crimson Peak is worthy to horror fans new and old, with a solid cast minus Hunnam. Sorry, Charlie. It's a spectacle of how atmosphere can make all the difference. There's major hints to Del Toro's love in the genre. The Cushing name was a tribute to the late famous actor Peter Cushing, who was in a good amount of Hammer Studios' films, notably as Van Helsing in Christopher Lee's Dracula series. There's use of old-fashioned camera tricks, framing, and even transitional wipes like the iris wipe. Del Toro inked his love letter and sent it with cheerful glee. No doubt in my mind, Crimson Peak will be a cult phenomenon amongst rabid horror fans who appreciate classic ghost stories. For the casuals, it might not stick like it would to the fans, and I will say, as far as an extra side note that was not written into this, that Crimson Peak is on the predictable side. You pretty much can figure it out about halfway through. But that still does not take anything away from the way that the story progresses, the pace, the beautiful set design that I've explained. You should easily go see it if you're a fan of horror or really appreciative of art and design in general. From me, Crimson Peak gets a solid 8 succulent atmospheric pieces of art out of 10. This has been Julian Seyfried, the host of the Horror Cabin Podcast, saying good night, and make sure you come back for the next episode of the Horror Cabin Podcast, which will be up in about 2 weeks. See you then. Make sure to like, subscribe, and make sure to check out the Facebook page for more news on the Horror Cabin Podcast.